Hello everyone, and welcome back to Social Curve TV. I'm your host, Delana Williams, and I am coming to bring you some of the hottest social topics of our times. But first, in order to give you a really good insight on what Social Curve TV is all about, I would love for you to be able to check out this wonderful video that my team put together for me. And I will dive right back in when we get back. Hello, my name is Delana Williams, and I am the developer of Social Curve Television. Social Curve Television did not come by easily. I've been developing television shows and working in television since 2007. So it actually started off as Still Felicity. Then it ultimately grew to Wet City, which was women's entertainment, empowerment, education. But the actual marketing of Wet City overall was a little bit more provocative to look at first, and I thought that that would be able to lure everyone in to come in, but what actually was going to draw Wet City was the content. So it's judging by a cover, but once you get inside, the content was what was the most powerful for Wet City. With the provocative aspect of Wet City, I said, well, we need to move a little bit further just to show you the progress of everything and how things actually came to the Social Curve. For Social Curve Television was all of the research that I've been doing regarding the social media and the way it is impacting television with the ratings, the social media buzz. I've been doing the research since 2011. And when it comes to, the social networks, bloggers, social threaders, as I like to call them, it's a boom. And I wanted to be able to ride on the curve of this social media phenomenon. And so one day I woke up and I was like, Social Curve. So here I am today, riding the curve of Social Curve Television. Welcome back. It's your girl Delana again, right here on Social Curve. And my special guest today is Smoking Jim Frazier, a living legend right here in Pittsburgh. How you doing today, Jim?
I am truly blessed, Delana. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. It's always fun.
Well, when you and I get together, it's always big. No, but Smoking Jim is a very dear friend of mine. And I wanted to bring him in to tap into who Smoking Jim is. You will always see Smoking Jim on the camera. He's always talking about and admiring and showing the stats and the qualities of everybody else. And I feel like it's time for the city, the nation, and the world to know who you are. So you were born James Frazier.
Yeah, James Frazier III. My dad is my hero, James Frazier Jr. He grew up in the South, and like a lot of great people, he moved here because of his parents looking for jobs in the steel industry. And my dad, 42 years in a steel mill before he retired, so he was a great, great guy. Always had food on the table for us.
Wow. Were you a competitive kid? Were you the quiet kid? What was it like growing up in the house?
Well, growing up with my dad, I grew up with the strap. He didn't mind pulling
spare the
out.
rod.
He didn't mind pulling out that belt, but you know, I always wanted to be like my dad. I always wanted to make him proud, and my dad was an avid sports fan. He used to box. He was a great basketball player. But his father died his senior year of high school, and he was the oldest of 11 kids.
Wow.
So he had to become the father figure and get out there and start working. So I have been playing football since I was 4 years old. Been a season tickets to the Steelers since I was 4 years old. I played football, wrestled, and ran track, and recently was inducted into the Mixed Martial Arts Hall of Fame for wrestling. And my dad never missed any of my practices or any of my games up through high school, and made all my college football games in college. So
wow.
I was very proud of that.
So he really has shaped the person that you are today. So tell us, what is your mom like?
Oh my goodness. I tell you what, she knows more about sports than anybody that I know.
Get out.
My mom is she was just like there for my dad. She was always that mom that everybody just came over. There was always food. She's the best cook in the world. She was at all the games. My dad, no matter how bad or good I did, my dad always had something good to say. Mom was critical. She was
the tiger mom. That's what we like to call a tiger mom. That's what mom is like.
But I tell you what, with my mom, she's a very spiritual lady. You know, we grew up in Sanctified Church, and we was in church all day Sunday, Sunday night, Wednesday, Friday, the whole bit, sang in the choir.
Wait a minute. Now here's a very important something that I want to bring up about Smoking Jim. I love this about you. You have never smoked, drank. Why is it that you never put these things in your body? Is it because of your spiritual upbringing, or why is it that? Because that's impressive. Who on earth can say that in this day and age, that they've never tried or never really tried anything?
Yeah, I never had a smoke or a drink in my life, and never had the desire to have it. And growing up with my dad, he always said that he always taught me that you know, if you want to be good in sports, these are things that you got to do. You got to outwork everybody, and you know, smoking and drinking was bad for sporting performances.
Here's my question. How did you get past the peer pressure? Because to be honest with you, I feel like this is something that can reach to young, aspiring athletes, and even kids who aren't athletic. Even if you're not in sports, drugs and alcohol is just absolutely no good for you. How did you overcome the peer pressure?
Well, it was kind of easy for me because I had brothers who were legendary athletes, super athletes. So it was easy because the name in the community grew up in God's country in Monroeville. And so everybody knew that we played sports. So it was easy when somebody approached me, or if I was out somewhere, I just says, you know, I don't smoke, I don't drink, because
so
you know,
nobody ever,
football.
so you were never pressured?
No,
basically.
Because I always said because of football I don't do it. So,
wow.
And that was enough.
Did you ever influence anybody, you know, any friends or anything to
Well,
follow
you know what,
follow suit?
it's funny because when I was out at the clubs, you know, I like the girls, and when I go out to the clubs, we used to go out to the clubs and guys be drinking, and then they want to see what I wanted to drink, and I tell them that I don't drink. I've seen people stop drinking, you know, that day. Kind of touched them, but you know, they went right back to it.
And then some people, they seem to feel like you can't have a good time out at the club if you're not drinking. Like, you know, you can't have a good time unless you're intoxicated. But let's flash forward. So you played from the little leagues, middle school, high school, to college.
Yeah.
You had your heart set on the pros. What happened?
Well, you know, the one thing, I had a great deal of success early on. The teams that I played with some great players. From the time I was 4 years old to 18 through high school, I think our record was 146 wins, 3 losses, and 1 tie. My senior year, we went undefeated, won a state championship, set a state record, only giving up 32 points the whole year, and we were ranked number 5 in the nation according to USA Today, and I was disappointed about that because my brother's team was ranked number 3 USA Today.
And so this was Monroeville.
Yeah.
What year was this?
Well, I don't really tell my age, but it wasn't last year, I can tell you that, but so it was a lot of fun.
Okay, so did you make it to the pros?
Well, I had 2 pro trials. My senior year, I tied a NCAA record by being named team captain 3 times, which is a record that'll probably never be broken unless a freshman is named team captain. But my senior year, I blew out my knee, and I had an opportunity to come back and play as a redshirt, but I had my heart set on playing professionally, and I should have came back and played another year of college, but I failed 2 professional tryouts, Atlanta Falcons and the Chicago Bears. And so I played 2 years of semi-pro football, and in my last year of semi-pro football, we won a national championship, and I was named National Player of the Year, and I did not get a tryout professionally and never picked up a football after that.
But when you look at the statistics, statistically, the amount of athletes that are out here compared to how many make it to the pros, really, I guess, kind of makes a pro athlete pretty special, right?
Yeah.
When you look at the statistics, there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of athletes, but only maybe a couple of thousand make it into the pros each year?
And there's a lot of thousands of pros that don't deserve the opportunity to be making the money that they are, and that's really, for me, not being able to get a professional tryout when I felt like I was deserving after playing semi-pro football, made me go into being an NFL scout, because I said, if there's anybody out there in the country that deserves an opportunity, I'm going to be the guy that fights to get them in the door, and I got a lot of people in the door over the years.
Absolutely, I agree, and that is what we're going to go right into when we get back with Smokin' Jim. We're going to flash forward to all of the wonderful things that he's doing now with the NFL, with high school, with college. You will be amazed. So I want you to stay tuned, and we'll be right back after this. Hello everybody, and welcome back with our TV and entertainment segment here on Social Curve. Television is jam-packed right now with some really hot fall seasonal shows. And I must tell you, if you're a woman like me or a man like me, doesn't matter, you have a career, you're also an entrepreneur, you don't have time to make it home on Monday night or Wednesday night to catch your favorite show, so you gotta go on demand. Well, I'm an on-demand kind of chick, and let me tell you, it is jam-packed with comedy, suspense, horrors, thrillers, drama, you name it, you got it. My favorite is BBC America, hands down. They have everything that you could possibly imagine. One of my first favorites on BBC America is Broadchurch. Broadchurch is a very sensitive drama, and it's about a little boy who was murdered in a small town in England. And I mean, it is heartbreaking. It has meticulous acting. It is impeccable, and the cinematography is just absolutely amazing. If you love mystery and wondering who done it, you need to check out Broadchurch. We also have Luther. This is Idris Elba. He is amazing. This is Law and Order England. Gotta check it out. I think this is going on Luther's 3rd season as well. One of my other favorites in BBC America is Orphan Black. This is also excellent cinematography, impeccable acting, the sci-fi, everything is so realistic, you have got to check it out. Now, we're going to boil down to my favorite, my top favorite on BBC America. This show is called Copper. Copper is one of the hottest shows that I have ever seen. It's a period movie, 1863, 5 Points in New York, These are free slaves. This is when Lincoln actually freed the slaves. So these are slaves that have traveled north to New York. You have the Irish immigrants, you have Jewish immigrants, you have, oh my gosh, the Anglo-Saxons, the aristocrats, the poor. They're all living together. It's scandal. There are brothels. There's murder. You will laugh, you will cry, you will do everything. Copper. From the very first episode, I was hooked, and I can't wait for the 3rd season. So before we go, I wanted to give you guys some shows to look out for. So now we're going to flash forward to 2048. This show is called Almost Human. This is a sci-fi drama. To me, it's nothing but a spin-off of I, Robot with Will Smith. Will Smith lost an arm. This officer lost a leg. They still don't have any trust in androids until they meet that special one. And there's one more that I want you to check out, and all I saw was the trailer, and I swear to goodness, I cannot wait for the 1st episode. It's called Dracula. This Dracula is also based in the 1800s, and let me tell you, this trailer is blazing. You gotta go out there and check it out, and I'll keep you posted on that as well. So this is the latest in what's going on in TV and entertainment, and I'll be back with you soon to give you some updates. Thank you for tuning in.
Hello everybody, Smoking Jim Frazier, Steel City Sports on the social curve.
Jim, how do you feel about that?
Why does every player from West Virginia act like their mother and father is also brother and sister? And I'm sitting here at the sports desk. We're going to talk sports, and more sports today. Well, I tell you what, the Pittsburgh Steelers had another horrible draft. Well, that's a very good point. Slick Rick DePaul, I'll tell you what.
Minutes after the ball is thrown. It's unbelievable. Ben might be sleeping in his bed at night and they bust through his door and just hit him.
When football took over for baseball in 1977, the average football player made $14,700. Today, the average football player makes $3,200,000. Listen, this guy sat there draft day pouting around. The 8th wonder of the world is how my good friend, general manager of the Steelers, Kevin Colbert, can keep his job. First of all, Geno Smith is a diva.
When MMA first came out, you had Hoist Gracie and those guys. There were no. You remember Hoist? That guy, man. There was no rules. You can almost kill a man in there.
He had to go to the peanut state, Georgia, to get a peanut brain doctor, declare him to play medically.
You know what? Tebow was my man.
I see him big fist. I know you knocked some folks out in your day, brother. You know, I'll tell you what, my main man, Rick, they named the whole university after him in Chicago, DePaul University.
All right, and now let's hear what Jim has to say about that.
This guy won 2 national championships at Florida. He won a Heisman Trophy, the first sophomore to ever do that at Florida. This guy comes to the National Football League as a first-round draft choice for the Denver Broncos, and they make him 4th or 5th string. When he finally got the opportunity, they was a 1-5 team. He took those guys. He won 7 out of 8 games. Played the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs. They had the #1 playoff team. They had the #1 defense in all of football. He passed for over 300 yards, had an NFL playoff record by averaging over 30 yards completion, and he beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in overtime. Now he can't get a job. I do think the Pittsburgh Steelers are too old. I think they're going 8-8. I think they're on the decline. That happens to all teams. The Roman Empire is starting to crumble. Only thing that Geno Smith and Joe Namath have in common is they both wear pantyhose. In combat sports, boxing is #1. Is MMA starting to take over, Kevin? And as we wrap this up in the last few minutes that we have, I want to get you guys Super Bowl picks, and we'll be right back at you next week on Social Curve TV.
Thank you so much for coming back. No, well, I'm back, and we're going to flash forward now with Smoking Jim Frazier and his wonderful, courageous story of growing up from very humble beginnings with a very strong father, a loving mother, a very athletic family. He had overcome peer pressure, but also had overcome an injury right before being able to become a professional athlete, which would normally break a lot of people, but with your discernment and your wonderful spirit, this man was able to overcome that and become an NFL scout because you never wanted to see this happen to another athlete, right?
And that's definitely true. And thank you, China. And what I do is I do a draft report every year. I evaluate every college athlete.
Now this is a 300-page report.
This is a 300. It's the only one like its kind in the country.
Report. Every year you write this.
Every year I write this.
And you follow every college. Where do you start? Middle school, high school?
Well, I'll just tell you a little story. I'll tell you a little story. Go back to 1994.
Okay.
I'm down in Tennessee, looking to see a freshman quarterback at the University of Tennessee by the name of Peyton Manning. You guys might have heard of him.
Wow!
And Tennessee has their locker rooms and everything in their stadiums. The only time they leave is to go to class. They got their weight room, they got their meals, everything's in their stadium. So I'm in there to talk to Peyton Manning, who's a freshman. Then I hear about this kid named Air McNear, who plays for Alcorn State, who's up for the Heisman Trophy at a little black school. They're playing in Tennessee, so I drive there and go to the game. I'm at the game. Air McNear passes for 700 yards, 8 touchdowns, runs for another 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I'm going around the stadium asking everybody, who is number 80 for Tennessee Chattanooga? They're like, who cares? You see what Air McNair's doing? I'm like, who's number 80 for Tennessee Chattanooga?
Peyton Manning was overlooked that
Peyton
day?
Manning was overlooked that day. I went to see Air McNair play. I'm going around the stadium. He's having maybe the greatest game any college player ever had. He ended up being 3rd in the Heisman that year, Air McNair. But I'm going around the stadium asking, who's this kid for Tennessee Chattanooga? They're like, who cares? So I find out he's a junior wide receiver by the name of Terrell Owens. You know him as T.O. I wrote every team in the National Football League. I said he'd be guaranteed to be a superstar in the National Football League. Everybody ignored me. San Francisco picked him up in the last pick of the last round just because they didn't need a receiver. 3 weeks later, he is the start receiver for the San Francisco 49ers. Now he's the second all-time leading receiver in NFL history, only to Jerry Rice. So that's some of the things that I do.
My goodness, that is beyond amazing.
From the time they're 18 years old when they're a freshman in college. So
Okay.
everybody that's in the NFL, I've scouted them since they were a freshman in college. That 300-page report goes to all the general managers of the National Football League.
Wow.
And I have a mail order business where people can get it. And this will be, if the Pittsburgh Steelers invite me back, this will be my 15th year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Was started in 2000. And I was most proud in 2003. The Pittsburgh Steelers in the 4th round needed a defensive back. And nobody knew who this kid was. Nobody on ESPN.
Who was it?
Nobody anywhere.
Who was it?
It was a guy named Ivan Taylor at the time, but he's now Ike Taylor from Louisiana Lafayette. Nobody's ever heard of him. And he is currently the 2nd highest paid Steeler defensive back in the history of their team. So very proud of that.
So you have been a wonderful figure along the course of sports history, period. Mike and Kia Tomlin, or how does that go?
Well, I tell you what, I was closer to the last head coach, Bill Cowher. And being that I like the pretty girl, so did he. So we hit it off real good. But, Coach Tomlin is, he's a special guy. And you know what, he's doing something that hasn't been done before for a young guy. He's still only in his early 40s. But not only was Coach Tomlin a great football player, William and Mary, but he's been an outstanding coach. And I tell you what, he could not have picked a better wife than he did. And I tell you what, he got some kids, so watch out for them on the high school level. They're going to be outstanding. But Coach Tomlin is a special guy. We've gone to a lot of boxing matches together. He loves boxing. I love boxing. So.
Speaking of boxing, Smoking Jim and I had the pleasure of going out to watch one of the latest pro fights at a nice, scantily clad venue. But what did you think about the outcome of the Mayweather fight?
Yeah, it was real surprising.
Against Canelo?
Yeah, Alvarez, Canelo
Alvarez.
Alvarez. Yeah,
Me and Smoking Jim were both kind of thrown off with it. They're promoting this fight all this time with this kid's first name. I'm like, it's Mayweather versus Canelo, so shouldn't it be Floyd versus Canelo? But what did you think about the outcome of that fight? Did you think for 1 second that Mayweather didn't have a chance?
Well, yeah.
For 1 second.
Well, I thought going into the fight, before the bell rang, I thought the young guy, Mayweather's almost 37, Canelo's only 22. He turned pro at 15 years old, so I thought that this would be the right time for guys to get upset. You can't outrun Father Time. You know, when Father Time comes, you can get old overnight. But Mayweather, I felt, won almost every round.
Yeah.
He dominated the guy. The only problem I have with Money Mayweather, other than he has about $300 million in the bank and he ain't cut me a check
and
yet.
all of his cars are white.
All of them, just his Las Vegas collection. But the only problem that I have with Money Mayweather is, one, he's been ducking local guy Paul Spadafore for a long time. Paul Spadafore beat him up pretty good in a sparring session years ago before Paul fell off the wagon. And I believe if Paul Spadafore this year will get a title shot if he stays away from drugs, alcohol, and Oscar De La Hoya.
Ooh, that's Smoking Jim, boy. He always gonna blaze the set with something. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on today.
Thank you,
so
Shannon.
much.
You know I love you.
I just felt like, everybody really needs to get to know who you are. And we have so much more to talk about and go on about, but we got to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for our city, for our special guest, and we will be right back after this.
Stay tuned